fellas. How you guys doing?
Living the dream.
So are we. Awesome. Questions?
Jim, with regard to just transitioning and new roles and things like that, what does spring look like? I mean, is it heavy install? Is it mild install?
It is. It's heavy install, especially with the number of new people you get. So I guess heavy is probably the wrong way to say it. It's a good amount, but make sure our guys understand what's going in. It's not like last year where you had a bunch of older guys that have been there a couple of years, like, hey, we can jump into this or that or whatever. We're like, hey, let's go back and teach our base concepts. So it's still a good install in terms of base concept wise, but teach the basics. Let's find out who are going to be those top receivers or running backs or in the quarterback, all the depth charts and all the different positions.
Sure.
And that's the biggest thing is to kind of find out who you have in terms of what they do the best to kind of match up. Because obviously it doesn't matter what we know; it's what the guys can do. So it's fun. It's fun. It's a fun install. You're like, okay, let's see what's up. Let's see what's going on.
Are you often surprised during the spring? Is there typically someone that that kind of pops out in the spring football?
Yeah, there is usually. It's usually more of a bigger, stronger, faster version of somebody else. You're like, ooh, that guy got stronger. That guy got bigger. Gosh, darn, he's more explosive. That's kind of the fun, or the growth of the young guys becoming not as young guys, becoming old. That's a fun. I think that's the biggest time where you're like, okay, you see it, and then all of a sudden, does it match up with the results they're having? And that's what's most fun for us. And to me, that's where I see the most deals. Like, wow, that guy really worked hard, really got faster, and then he's making more plays. Like, that's awesome.
You can spot some of that stuff when they're just in the spider pads too.
Yeah.
Any guys that have really kind of caught your attention with the way they're moving around?
Everybody. Is that nice of me to say that? I'll tell you this, overall, I'm impressed with how our guys are all moving. Groups of the receiver groups really have done a really good job moving well. All those guys, the new guys and the guys that have been around, I think that group's been fun to watch and see how they're moving. They run well. And it'll be fun to keep watching. We keep putting more stuff in there, obviously. And I think, obviously, the quarterback room has been doing a good job. A lot of them been around. David's newer, but that's been fun. And then the tight end group has some new guys in there. They've been able to do a good job, some good size, and done a good job with some different types of catches and different things we're trying to do for them.
How long does it take you? You mentioned a minute ago, let's find out what we have. How long does it take you to get a feel for what you have? Is it all spring?
It's all spring.
Okay.
I do. I think it's like anybody can say, "Oh, I know what I got." You don't. You know, we buy 2 days of non-padded, so-called. I'm like, it's all great. But now we put the pads on. Let's see what happens. And then people start getting tackled. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun part. You really don't know. And that kind of changes all the time. Like, oh, you think you know. Oh no, well, you didn't know that, and that's why you're hoping to find out as much as you can, so you're not surprised come fall. I think that's the biggest part. Is like also, ooh, I didn't know that. Especially you don't want to know by game 1 or 2. You're like, I didn't know about that. But that's the thing is trying to figure out, minimize. As the coach always talks about, doesn't like surprise. Don't minimize the amount of like, oh my, I didn't know that happened. And put those guys in positions. I think what we do really well, and Lance has always done it. Where I've been with him, is put kids in positions, tough positions. Be it backed up situations, 2-minute situations, third down type situations, and make them compete and see which kids can handle, for lack of better words, pressure situations. I think that's the best way to do it, is put them in there and kind of see what's up.
Is it a different process now with so many people coming in as transfers from as opposed to before you get a few high school kids? But is it a different process of bringing everyone together because you're bringing pieces from
No, we said about this as offensive group. I said the most important thing for us is to become a family as a team, but also as like Coach DK says, defensively. Can that group get together? That's the biggest change, I think. Is okay, guys can play great, but how fast can we get them and become a family and a team and a close knit unit? Because you guys have all heard every team that's won a championship, they say the same thing. It's the tightest team I've ever been part of. But right, they always say, "Oh, family, these guys are hung with," and so on. Well, now we're trying to produce that type of process in 6 months or 8 months or whatever you want to say. Sleeve's been unbelievable. You know how good our strength staff is at building the culture, and we just kind of go. But I will tell you this: is take football out of the equation. The young men we brought in, offensively, defense, special teams, great people. They're fun people to be around now, and they are fun people to be around. And the defense is doing awesome. They're running around, but the kids are really. So I think that gives us as good a chance overall, let alone as an offense. But the big thing is like, okay, well, great, we can run around. Can we communicate? Can the quarterback communicate with the skilled kids and vice versa? And that's the biggest thing is, Are they going to hang out together? That part of it and grow. And so when those tough moments come in game, you can look and say, yeah, I use the word love a lot. You gotta love your teammate. Yeah, how fast can we build that? I truly love you guys, man. I love you as a teammate, and you go play as hard as you can for those guys.
Hey Jim, with Jalen out, how important is it for some of the other guys to get reps and maybe elevate their game or show what they can do?
Good, it's a huge thing. I've been really, fortunate's the wrong way to say it. I've been fortunate. Is that a fair way to say that? Unfortunate that also sometimes the starter won't be able to, go for a little bit of time. But very fortunate that gives those other guys so many reps. Because the hardest position to rep is quarterback. Because there's one. Now sometimes I put 2 out there back in the day. We might do that again. Have fun with that. But receivers you can rotate 6, right, or 8 or whatever. Tight ends you get different personnel packages. Quarterback there's one dude. So the unfortunate situation is, you like Jalen to get every single rep, but the fortunate part of it is you get Cole and Isaiah reps, and then you get the guys, you get the Mikey and David reps, and then TJ gets reps, and that's the biggest part, is being able to get all those guys reps and help out. So it is, I've always said it creates depth. I think Jason Bean became Jason Bean a lot of times because of the amount of reps he got at certain times in the lack of when Jalen wasn't around at certain times, and became a really good player. And you can only, it's hard to mimic true football reps without taking the rep. You can get video stuff as much as you can, it's awesome, but to get that true rep is awesome for us.
Yeah. Is there a chance that Jalen could come back at some point
Yeah.
this spring and throw it around?
Dude, all I do is I wake up every morning, go up and see if he can, whatever, and then we go from there. So yeah, there is. He's doing great. He really is. He's doing great. He's just great. His smile is, he's doing super.
Yeah, how important is it on the offensive line for you guys to find those tackles?
Huge. Obviously, you know that in terms. But the good thing there is, we do, I think, enough offensively where we can do something to help those guys out. Like, I think it's more ultra critical if you're a 60-time pass team, chuck it every time and drop back and need those guys to practice. When you do a lot of different things as we do and try to move the pocket, I think, yes, it's a critical, but we can do some things to help those guys if we need to initially early on. But it is fun. But the fun part is to let them, in practice, let them find out. And let's see if we do what we can, exactly, we'll go back to question number 1, see what we can and can't do. And so it's like, I always tell people, you can drop great plays. They have to be executed. You have to be able to actually have the 11 guys that can do it. Not that they can't do it, but does it best for us.
Having Matt back, can you talk a little about what he offered you guys in his Angelo's role and what it's like having him back?
Matt was a huge part of what we did, just flat out. Like he probably exceeded. I don't know what the analyst what it's supposed to be, but he did so much for us in terms of just gave us great ideas. And it was so fun for all of us sit around, me and Andy to sit around and just talk, Zoom with him and all the different, because he talks kind of like me, pretty fast. You guys know that kind of, so me and him together, that's a scary situation. And we're all, I like that, hey, I like that. Oh, hey, how many other people can we put on the field? Can we throw 6 guys out? Can we play in the CFL and get this on a different route? But I thought he did a great job with the third down stuff, the red zone stuff, and having him back. And really the fun part is cleaning up maybe some of the things that got away from us that he had brought, that he was really, we all have our things that we're really good at knowing or add. And he had some things that maybe we slipped away a little bit that he can kind of, hey, ooh, this guy was doing this on this route. Oh yeah, and all of a sudden it opens back up. So it's been huge. And it's been huge for having somebody who knows what we do. And so comfortable with what we do, you can just kind of roll them back in and it's like, hey, how you been? It's like you never left.
You guys had to rebuild the wide receiver room after losing so many guys. Doing that through the portal, how do you go about evaluating? Because looking at the guys you brought in, they do have different profiles in terms of what they've done in college and also skill sets. So how did you guys go about building that wide receiver room?
I think our practice models really helps in terms of putting those kids in situations, be it one-on-ones or 2-on-2s or team or half scale. You try and get those guys in as many situations in terms of catching balls, obviously in the blocking stuff, the team stuff. I think how we do things and how we practice with multiple huddles, I think we get a lot of reps for those guys. I think that's really key for us, to let those guys get reps so we can see what they can and can't do. So I think honestly our practice model is probably as good as anybody in terms of evaluating guys in a pretty quick time.
And what does that evaluation process look like when you're looking at those guys in the portal and deciding, hey, we like what this guy does? And
Film is it's like a high school kid, but just a faster version, meaning like a sped up thought process. You're like, you can't sit there and I hate to say dates the wrong word. You can't sit there and 6 to 8 months. It's like yay or nay. It's like, you better go on them, and because if you don't, then someone else, 7 other schools did. So it's a quicker eval. So I thought our staff, the recruiting staff is terrific. Did the initial bang, 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 bang work out there and go give us the info that we needed. Position coaches we try to act as fast as humanly possible. I think what I just told Terry Samuels out there, I said, what I'm really impressed with in that group room, let alone all the rooms, is wow, what a great job the coaching staff, Coach Leipold, obviously Coach Leipold and Coach I know all those guys in terms of finding kids with character, like great character kids. I'm telling you, man, it's really fun to be around them. I think that's a part that people are going to miss. They're going to see this ultra talented kid, young man, but does he fit the room? And can he? I say destroy, or is he going to fit into everybody, or is he going to kind of make it, combustible, for lack of better words? And I thought our guys have been terrific. And a lot of testaments to sleeve, obviously, but Coach Leipold making sure we did our homework. I think we do a really good job homework-wise on the type of kid in a short period of time. And the other period is like, hey, 62 catches, blah blah blah, or 12,000 yards, career, hey, let's go. And like, well, is it? Like, we talk to people and try to find out as much as you can about those people, those young men.
What do you want to see from High Shot this spring?
Just Daniel being Daniel. I want Daniel to be healthy, happy, and do what Daniel does in the simplest term, which is run really hard. And with, I guess violence is the best word, but he runs hard. Like, go back to that. I still remember my vision is still the Duke 2 year ago run where we threw the flat route to him, and it was like I don't know, one of those video game runs that people bounce off, hit the buttons, and away he went. That's what I want to see. And I think he's bending as good as he's ever been. Like, in terms of, I think he's just worked hard. So his try. I think it will help maintain healthiness. All right, really stay healthy for his practices, because he's a special kid. We all know that. And just, can we get him hopefully doing Jay Walls as good as they're as coaching him, and the relationship. He's smiling and happy. I think these guys see it too. It's just he's in a really good space right now. It's fun to be around.
Do you see a difference in him since Devin's moved on?
A growth maybe a little bit. I guess maybe look around and say, hey, there's no Devin, who felt like he's been here 10 years because he's like played all the time. The guy has always been kind of the face of that room, probably maybe the face of the program. And I think he's kind of worked like, hey, I'm kind of that. I think that's where I've seen. I'm telling you, he is the smile on his face and just his attitude has been awesome. Maybe that is a part of like, hey, I gotta maybe do a little bit more, be that way. It's just naturally kind of. Kids always mature is the wrong word. I'm gonna use it in a way such as like they kind of grow up further on, just kind of figure it out. Sometimes it just kind of clicks. All of us have those different moments, and it feels like he's in a good spot.
In terms of the offensive line, what do you look for in the first couple of days, considering the fact that they're not in pads?
Effort. I really do. Coach Egg-Paul said, like, I'm one of those guys that I trust everybody in the room coaching-wise. So it's not like I'm going to say, oh, I would look for these exact steps and forward. I'd be lying. But I know where they're supposed to go, obviously, what they're supposed to do. I look at, like, how much effort they give and the strain they're giving. Because I think you have to be talented at any position, let alone O-line. But those guys can be physical and strain. So I really like those guys who strain and finish and fight, like Coach always talks about, strain to finish. That's what I look for. The guys who are really taking truly the ball's thrown, they know they're not going it, and they still take those extra steps down. Like Coach always wants to freaking follow the ball, and then still come back to the huddle and run the next play. So I really look for that. I look for the guys and then they keep on battling through. I think will help us in those crucial moments.
You talked about wanting to be better situationally, wanting to be more explosive. Yeah. How do you facilitate that through the spring?
Put them in those positions, like do those situations, do backed up situations, do 4-minute type drills, do 2-minute type drills, do a third down type drill, any type of drill we thought we were a little slide, red zone knockout periods that we call them, red zone periods. And you just keep throwing them in there. And also for us, it's for the young men to be in there. It's also for us to figure out, going back to square one again, what they and we can and cannot do. I should say what we can and cannot do down there, to the best of our ability. You can't only find that out by being down there. You can say what you want, but until you get down inside the 10 and try some stuff out and see what's going on. And I think that's why every year is different. Because people always joke like, we're going to throw it 80 times. Well, I'd be fired if I threw it 80 times. I think Coach Leipold would be like, see, unless it worked all the time. But in terms of figuring out what our best stuff is year to year run wise, or pass game wise, or what now would be more emphasis in different spots. Well, like I said, different things. Hey, bowl game, we had some different things, and we sped some things up and different situations. Then you go back to the Central Florida game a year or two ago. We ran for 450, whatever it is, so on. So trying to find out what this team is going to be best at and our unit in those moments, in those situations. You just put them in there. It really sounds so cliche-ish, but like, that's all you can do is put them in there and see what happens. See who can see what things work.
Matt was saying that he's really excited about this tight end group because he
Yeah.
feels like they have a lot of potential to get vertical in the passing game. 2 practices in, is that something that you've seen a little bit?
It is. It's fun. They're a good group. Obviously, some of the guys that came back, or the newer guys, can run well and they're long. And it's been fun to kind of throw the balls out there and see what they can do. So it's a fun. I think it'll be a good group. It'll be able to keep us multiple in personnel groupings, and that's critical. However we end up moving the ball down the field, the ability to stay multiple in our personnel groupings will always be key.
What sort of growth did you see from Isaiah over the course of his first year, and what do you hope to see from him this spring?
I see an understanding. It's just like anybody, an understanding of the offense. The comfort level of knowing how to get through progressions faster and the passing part of it. Decision making. Still young guys will always still sometimes, especially when you're not the starter per se, sometimes you'll try and always become the starter like on every throw. Like, dude, it's okay. That's a good thing I like. Jason, I like that. You just gotta kind of go, hey, it's not, you gotta try some things out. I think those part always become better decision making, but you gotta try it sometimes, let it roll in practice. So that's what I keep seeing is keep letting him stretch his limits and find out what he isn't gonna be able to do, come when the time comes.
You maybe got a quicker view of Cole than you would have wanted to his freshman year. How have you seen him grow, and was that a valuable experience for him being in that situation?
We said before, like 2 years ago when he started that K-State game, I think, right? That's right. He played Texas Tech. The unbelievable ability to process information at a young age, impressive, man. I call that functional intelligence. That has continued to move on. His leadership skills is as good as anybody in the program. That's in terms of just that's the type of person he is. And I really believe that he has gotten stronger. His arm's gotten strong. People are gonna say stronger arm, but I think he's worked really hard on flexibility and throwing motion to even create more power, more velocity on his throws, and the ball's jumping out of his hand. And I think I'll tell you, he's more loose. I would say loose-hipped. I'm not a biomechanical guy, but I'll make it sound like that sometimes. But he's loose. He's loosened up and been able to twist and turn. Because the great quarterbacks, it doesn't matter who they are. You look at all the kids, guys have been great. They can twist and turn and put themselves in position to be able to make plays. And that's why I think he's got, because he's always this, and now he's been able to do this more, and he just goes hard all the time, like all the time. Like you can't run everybody over, even in practice, buddy. Like just be all hard all the time, but you love them. But that's what I think he's gotten from a physical standpoint. He was just all excited because I think his body fat went down even more. I'm like, he is moving as well as he ever has. He's always been moved well. Now it's like being able to change direction, move well.
What drew you to David through the recruiting process?
Loose. He was loose and sudden. 2 words I always look for is loose and sudden. He was sudden, his ability to make decisions and make different type of throws, and he was loose-hipped. It's so funny watching practice where I was doing all of a sudden, like he made a throw kind of rolling one way, kind of threw slightly across his body, put it right in the target, kind of. People talk about different arm angle, maybe he's not straight over the top, he's a little bit right about here, but it just came out, it's just I'm like, there it is. And he was coming out of a year where he was like 3 and 5 year or something. Yeah, I think the same high school as Coach Self is where he came from. And it had never been a great football program, and so a lot of people weren't recruiting. I saw it as through our recruiting staff. Coach Murray's like, hey, you might want to, because Coach Grant's kind of knows my kind of what I look for in those guys, kind of like that. Not what can they twist and turn and do some things that other dudes can't. And he could. I'm like, hey, you're right. I watched him, like, that's really good. And then all of a sudden you go and he takes a program into the playoffs, Final Fours. It never happened. All of a sudden becomes this. It's so funny when guys all of a sudden they go from a 1-star, 2-star to like a 22-star. I'm like, we must be pretty good evaluators then. But that's why I really saw the looseness and the ability to compete, and he stayed. And it was really cool for him to stay in the same school, which isn't easy, let alone us. We talk about college all the time, but kids are moving all the time at different places, and I think it's cool for him to stay there. I was really impressed by that. When it wasn't a football type school, he helped to become a football school.
Anything else, Coach Z?
Already?
You can keep going.
I know. Thank you.